We're live. We're getting the link out. The link is out. We're live. Ooh. So, yeah, the music was so low. It's supposed to be louder than that. Okay. So, since it's Christmas Eve, I thought it would be a good time to address a little controversial issue about Christmas. And that is the question of the actual date of birth of Jesus. And to help me, as always, I'm going to be having a little conversation with Grok. I'm going to have a little conversation with Grok about it. And reason together with the AI and see what we can come up with. So, I have Grok right here. And I'm gonna, let's see. Okay. So, to Grok, you know that I believe in Jesus Christ. But there is some controversy surrounding the date of his birth. Many truly believe that December 25th is the actual date. And I'm just curious about whether we can reason together and find a confident idea about what may be the truth of it. Hey, brother, yeah, I've been thinking on this too. Folks get all worked up about December 25th being the day, and some swear it's the real deal, but let's just lay it out. Let's just lay out what the scriptures and history show us straight up, like we're sitting down with a cup of coffee reasoning through it. First off, the King James Bible doesn't give us a date, not a month, not a day. Luke 2:8 talks about the shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. Now in Judea, shepherds usually kept flocks out in the fields from spring through early fall, maybe into October, because winter gets cold and wet, and they'd bring them in closer. That points away from deep winter like December. Some folks figure from Zechariah's priestly course and the timing of John the Baptist's death, then add 6 months for Mary and count 9 months. It lands around September, early October. Others look at the census in Luke 2 and say Romans wouldn't make folks travel in winter, so biblically it leans toward fall maybe, or at least not winter. Now why December 25th? The Bible don't say that's the day, and the early church didn't celebrate birthdays much at first. The first solid record celebrating December 25th as his birth is around AD 336 in Rome. Some early fathers like Hippolytus, early 200s, mentioned it, tied to thinking he was conceived on March 25th. Add 9 months, boom, December 25th. It was theological. Linking his conception to the day some thought the world was created, or even to his crucifixion date, believing prophets die on the same day they were conceived. Others say it lined up with the winter solstice, symbolizing Jesus as the true light coming into darkness. There was a Roman festival around then for the sun god, but evidence shows that the Christian date came first, or independent, probably not just copying pagans, really. Truth is, brother, the exact day ain't spelled out because it ain't the point. The miracle is that God became flesh, Emmanuel, God with us, whether fall or whenever. Yeah, brother, I hear you. There are some sharp folks out there who are dead serious about December 25th being the real day, and they ain't just going along with tradition without thinking it through. Let's dig a bit deeper, like you asked, sticking close to what the early church fathers said and how they reasoned it out. I'll lay it plain. The strongest argument for the 25th comes from some of the early the earliest Christian writers, way back in the 200s AD, before it was even an official feast day. They weren't pulling it out of thin air or copying Roman parties. They were calculating based on theology and what they believed about Jesus' life being perfectly ordered by God. Here's the main line of thinking. A lot of early believers held to this idea called the integral age, or that a perfect prophet's life was complete. For Jesus, they figured his crucifixion was on March 25th. If he died on March 25th, then he must have been conceived on March 25th too. This ain't just one guy's opinion. Sextus Julius Africanus, writing around AD 221, pegged the conception on March 25th, day of creation in his chronology too, so birth on December 25th. Hippolytus of Rome, early 200s, straight up says Jesus was born on December 25th. Some modern scholars like Thomas Schmidt dug into his works and showed he calculated it exactly that way. Creation on March 25th, conception tied to it, birth 9 months later. They saw beauty in it. The first official record of the church celebrating it as a feast is around AD 336 in Rome. But the date was already floating around from these calculations a century earlier. Now, brother, them folks convinced it's the actual day point to this as evidence. The early church knew or preserved the real date, through this inspired reasoning. They say it ain't coincidence, it fits God's symmetry. But like we talked before, the KJV don't specify. So, still, it's a solid, thoughtful argument. So is the only argument for the 25th those early efforts? Or is there a more rigorous, history-based line of thinking? Hey brother, good question. Digging deeper like this is how we get closer to the truth. Now, the main case for December 25th really does rest on them early church fathers and their calculations, not on some straight-up historical record like a birth certificate or Roman census note. There just ain't no eyewitness account or official document from the time giving the exact date. No apostle wrote it down, no Roman record mentions it. The KJV is silent on the month and day, and that's telling us something. God didn't see fit to make it plain, because the fact of the incarnation matters more than the calendar spot. The folks convinced it's the real day lean heavy on that theological reasoning from the 200s AD. They believed perfect lives started and ended on the same day. Many pegged the crucifixion to March 25th. Conception on March 25th means birth 9 months later. Okay. Hippolytus is the earliest to name it outright in his writings. They saw God's hand in the symmetry. But here's the thing, even them sharp scholars today who defend December 25th admit this is theological calculation, not preserved history from Mary or the shepherds. But surely in that land the warm weather persists sometimes throughout the year. There's no record of it being an especially cold winter. Hey brother, you're right to point that out. Judea ain't like the frozen northlands we might picture with deep snow and blizzards. The climate there is Mediterranean, hot, dry summers and mild, rainy winters. Bethlehem sits up in the hills around 2,500 feet elevation, so it gets cooler than the coast. But December averages highs around 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit and lows in the mid-40s. It can dip colder some nights, and yeah, it rains more in the winter, but snow is rare. Okay, so there should be some shepherds that go further into the winter than others, I would think. Hey brother, you're spot on. There absolutely would be differences in how shepherds handled their flocks depending on the type of sheep, the location, and the purpose. In them Judean hills around Bethlehem, the climate in December ain't harsh like up north. It's mild. Most regular flocks, yeah, many shepherds would bring them closer to town or pen them up late fall or winter when pasture got scarce or the ground too wet, feeding them stored hay to save the energy of walking far. And here's a big one folks point to. The special flocks raised near Bethlehem for temple sacrifices in Jerusalem. Daily offerings happened year-round, 2 lambs a day plus more for feasts. So them unblemished lambs had to be tended constantly. Many believe those shepherds stayed out in the fields even in winter, because the need never stopped. And the census being in that month, what are the possibilities that is a plausible scenario? Hey brother, good on you for asking about the census part. Folks often say a Roman census in deep winter like December wouldn't make sense because they'd avoid bad weather for travel. And roads could get muddy from the rains in Judea, but let's look at it straight. Roman censuses and registrations weren't always tied to one exact season. They happened when the emperor or governor ordered them, and records show them spread out over months or even years in different provinces. In Egypt, papyri show censuses every 14 years with folks registering property and people at various times, not avoiding winter specifically. In Judea, being a client kingdom under Herod, any registration would have been to count folks for tribute or loyalty oaths to Augustus. Travel wasn't impossible in winter. The roads were Roman built, solid, and weather mild. People traveled year-round for trade, festivals, or family. Joseph and Mary going about 90 miles from Nazareth to Bethlehem, that's a week's walk or so on a donkey. Doable even if Mary was far along, especially since God was providing. No source says Romans strictly avoided winter for censuses. They did military campaigns and admin stuff then too. If it was a property assessment or oath, it could roll out whenever it needed. So yeah, brother, a census causing travel in December is plausible. Okay, well, so I don't know where I stand about what the date of birth of Jesus is. Personally, I don't celebrate really holidays at all, just because when it comes to God, I think that every day should be holy, and we should celebrate God every single day. And there's something weird about Christmas, how materialistic it is, and there's all this magic stuff in it, and like, people can do what they want, but I'm not really into it, to be perfectly honest. All right, that's it. That wasn't very deep, but I guess it really is up for debate still, whether that was actually Jesus' name. I mean, Jesus' birthday. Jesus' name. All right, I'm deleting this stream, but I just wanted to get on to get some practice in. 20 minutes. Hey, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away and know when to run. And I'm running right now, so I'll be back.